Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today I'm going to be reviewing the Might of the Guardians Godfest, which is coming on Sunday, April 30th, if there's no 31st. So, basically, whenever there's a Godfest occurring, you need to make the decision on your own whether or not there's enough value for you to roll and pursue. Mostly because, just because one card is useful for the majority, it may not necessarily apply to you, and vice versa can also apply. So, use your own rationale and logic whether or not you should be rolling. So, the Might of the Guardians Godfest comes this Sunday and will be only featuring Godfest exclusives at an increased rate of 5 times, and there will be no Pantheons alongside of it. So, this is a little unusual because, for the most part, Godfest exclusives are obviously very desired, but their hit rates are relatively low, and having those Pantheons to act as buffers against all those 4-star fodders is desirable. So this kind of leaves the question of whether or not this is worthwhile rolling. In addition to all that, you also have plus 40 to a random stat, so at least you get collateral plus eggs as a compensation prize. So, having no Godfest with no feature Pantheons, I feel, is actually a worse scenario for the most part, because those Pantheons do act as a buffer, because I believe, at least from my understanding, is that every Godfest, each card has a fixed amount of chance of being rolled, and the increased rates obviously multiply it. So by having more cards being pushed up, it will at least buffer against the 4 stars being rolled. So in this case here, I feel that it is not that lucrative, even though it is 5 times Godfest exclusives. And in addition to all of that, it is a Flame Gala, and that also means Dark Athena subs, for the most part, are not going to be readily available, and she does come out on Monday. Because Dark Athena mostly uses, well, obviously she uses Dark cards, so Gala Flame does not help, and for the most part, she doesn't really utilize Godfest exclusives as her subs or inherits. She does use a couple as inherits, but as subs, no, she does not. So if you're pursuing Dark Athena cards, this is not the time to roll. So this Godfest shapes up over here. Again, this will be posted on my website, and there's a link in the YouTube description down below. You can hover over all the icons to see what the name of the card is. You can click them. It opens a link to Pad X, so you can find out more information of the cards themselves. So, as always, I utilize a checkmark system. So 3 checks means they're the best in slot. They can't really be replaced, and they're just amazing overall. 2 means that they do have tremendous value, such as something like Green Odin, who can't be easily replicated, but is not as overpowering as something that's 3 check marks. Single check means they are valuable, but they may become more niche and almost more luxury for the most part, but they still have meaningful contributions to your monster box overall. Question marks tend to be just luxury options, such as Red Odin. It's not necessary, but it is nice to have. X means that they're just kind of at the bottom right now. They need help. They're not in any relevant place for any current meta team. But with that being said, they have the most chance of gaining some meaningful buff or enhancement because they have the most room for improvement. Just think Light Metatron and how she became useful all of a sudden. Up and down arrows mean they basically have moved up or down since the last time I posted a tier list or a Godfest review, just so you can kind of keep track if cards have made any shifts or movements. The star and blue square and purple orb kind of help add a bit of diversification to the checkmark tier list, meaning like gold star is the top within that, blue is in the middle, purple is the bottom. So it adds a bit of diversification, but that only applies to my Pantheon tier list, which is here. There's no Pantheons featured, but I feel that it should be included anyways because we need to actually see what those cards actually do for you when you roll them, because they are most likely the most common rolls occurring. So again, it's on my website. You can scroll through at your own pace. You can find your card. And just because it's not ranked highly does not mean it's terrible. It may have uses for you. It's some way for your own teams. So for the Godfest exclusive tier list, this is where it currently shapes up now. The only change that did occur was Fenrir and Fenrir Viz moving up from question mark into single check mark. Now, that is actually quite interesting because while I do feel that the puzzle and jammers meta will never truly take off, you can't really deny any longer that they are absolute horrible cards, because before it was garbage can, and now it's can. Like, they can do things. They can clear content. This is partially because they've gained buffs that increase their leader skill activation consistency, as well as the fact that we now have inheritable farmable monsters, which means we can gain those amazing jammer generating active skills while using a base card that we actually want to use. Because the main problem with the jammer meta is that Gung-Ho is very loath to release rare machine cards that actually produce jammer orbs. This is because they will have no value on any other team outside of this jammer meta, and it's just not going to be popular, so it's just a bad decision overall. So they tend to make them as farmable cards because everyone can acquire them, and it's your choice if you want to or not. So by allowing those farmable cards to be inherited, these Fenrir and Fenrir Viz gain more viability. So Gainot, Lynthia, they do at least produce jammers with a full board changer, so there is hope and merits to those cards. So maybe they'll move up higher if more jammer cards are released. That gives them more value and kind of helps reposition them well in the meta. They do at least perform well in certain dungeons that have excessive amounts of jammer spawns or those with jammer skyfalls already occurring, so it can be something to keep in mind. So putting it all together, basically I have ranked the 2 days of the Godfest exclusive, so you can kind of just see which days have slightly better chances. Like, you can use your own judgment. Like day 1 and day 2, they're kind of similar. Day 1 is a little heavier, at least weighted in terms of like overall value. But then again, if those cards you already own and you have no use for those duplicates, you may be better off rolling day 2. Or you may just simply be better saving your stones because there may not necessarily be anything worthwhile keeping. Or, sorry, well, there's obviously things worthwhile keeping, but I mean by there's not much collateral other benefits because there's no pantheons alongside to make your life a little more exciting and happy. So my thoughts overall is that this Godfest could have been great. It could have really helped promote the Dark Athena hype by at least featuring the cards that she wants to use. And even having a Midnight Gala alongside. People would have rolled so much harder if they had known that they could have actually acquired Dark Athena cards and subs and Herits more easily. So let me know what you think about having 5 times Godfest exclusives about any Pantheons. Do you feel it's worth rolling and pursuing, or do you feel it's simply better just save your stones for a more desirable Godfest with Pantheons, or the 10-stone Godfest exclusive machine, which may or may not come back? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Hopefully you all have a Mantastic day. Best of luck in your rolls if you do roll, and happy puzzling.